You're listening to Chameleon Church, biblical antidotes for the modern man. With your host, Allan Aguirre.
I can still hear the music in my head. Good morning. Welcome to the Chameleon Church Show for this lovely Tuesday morning, April 18th. My name is Allan Aguirre. I'll be your host. I'm under sedation, and I'm coming to you live from the Wasatch back in northern Utah. No, I'm not sedated.
How chill can you keep this chill going?
How long can I keep the chill going?
Okay, Allan, you just know in this world you have trouble. Take heart, I have overcome. There's going to be something we talk about today that is so frustrating, but just tell yourself, I know it's coming, but I am not going to change my countenance.
What's that? But I'm not going to change my countenance. What? Okay, so now
I will speak in low tones. I will not escalate the situation, because if God is on my side, what shall I fear?
Okay. What can be against me? What are you smoking, dude? What are you drinking over there? So here's my question, though. So here's what I'm thinking. Here's the thought you're giving me. What was the mantra that the pig babe ran to the sheep? Fa-boo-ya. What was that? I always forget it.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, come on. I always forget it, and this is the moment I want to remember it. So I could do, so instead of going, I can go fa-boo-ya, whatever it is. It was like the secret word for the sheep to cooperate, because he was the sheep. Remember, Babe was going to be the sheepdog. Oh, come on. You never saw Babe, dude? I guess I saw it because, remember Lori? I met her in Dallas, and she worked for...
Yeah. Okay, yep. Yeah.
Right? She married Frank.
Did we talk about this?
She married Frank. Mm-hmm. Right. She married Frank. Well, she came to Dallas.
She was doing promotion.
Right. She still is. Biscuit PR. Still is.
The movie at the festivals, yeah.
She's actually doing a lot more film than anything. Well, she was doing film way back then, which is what I'm going to bring up. But she was actually here in town working. She's working with the Chosen production. Well, she's working with the production company that makes the Chosen, Angel Studios, with the promotion of that new Abraham show they put out. I didn't see it, but anyway, which is interesting because it's not the Chosen people, which are Christians. This might just be 100% Mormon, which is interesting because now they've opened up to this huge tens of thousands, 20 of thousands, whatever, of Christian market. This is very interesting. Very interesting. I don't know who's involved with the Abraham show. I just know that Angel Studios produced it. Her Biscuit PR company is working with Angel Studios. She was here for 2 or 3 days for the premiere. But anyway, so she came to Dallas for some reason and asked me. She was going to do a promotional with Walden for this movie called Babe. Do I know anyone that can drive a big old honking truck, like one of those 2 double cab pickup trucks, and then carry this really huge trailer, which was basically the marketing. It was like a circus trailer for Babe, but then you would pull up to the fair, like, because they were at the Texas State Fair, and it opens up into the display, and it's this huge marketing thing. And I said, yeah, I actually know somebody that can. Anyway, so Javier, my uncle, drove the truck on the road for 2 months, and they hitting all these state fairs promoting Babe, because it's a farm thing. Babe, state fairs, it makes sense. A good marketing promotion there. And that's why I think I know about the movie, why I saw the movie. And this pig, no one is texting. No one is commenting what the actual saying is. Fa-boo-ya. I don't know what it is.
my kids have seen it, but it wasn't a thing because I
Oh,
think
Baramu. Is that it? Baramu. Anyway.
Bob Ram. Oh, I get it. Yeah, funny.
So telling me to stay chill. Baramu. Baramu.
So speaking of that, you chosen in the new film. I mean, I'm noticing there's a lot of these Bible-based films coming out. I'm like,
I know.
everywhere you look, and I'm
I
like,
know.
oh, this is concerning. I like. There's just so much. I mean, in one thing, you're like, oh, cool, another. But then you're just like, oh, it's like you remember when Nirvana? Of course you do. When Nirvana came out from nowhere, and then 12 years later, they're like meeting with record executives, like, we're looking for the next Christian Nirvana, and you're like, dude, that was like 12 years ago.
Yeah.
That kind of a thing in pop culture. But I saw an ad with the guy that plays Jesus in The Chosen.
Mm-hmm. Promoting the Catholic prayer app.
And Easter. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, does not compute.
But see, I guess to the world, it's one pot of soup. We're just all one pot of soup. And it all depends whether when you scoop out, are you scooping out, is it a piece of potato or maybe some carrots over here, a piece of carrot, maybe a little bit of corn over here, or a little squash over here, right? Those are all the different denomination or sects, maybe to them, right? But to them, I think it's all just one same thing, right?
Well,
Mark Wahlberg. I mean, think about Mark Wahlberg and the life he's had. I mean, I it is known in Hollywood that Entourage, that HBO show that was pretty graphic when it comes to Hollywood type stuff. Yes, I am talking sexual. Was all about Mark Wahlberg and his coming from wherever, Boston, to LA to begin his film career. Because remember, he was a Calvin Klein ad. He was in his underwear and some whitey tidies. He went from being this white boy rapper guy. Remember what was that band?
Yeah. And by everyone, the Mark Wahlberg connection is because he's also doing promos for the same.
I'm getting there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So he's now like this big time Catholic guy. And he's doing, he promotes this app where you can get closer to God through this Catholic app. It is Catholic. Well, then, like you said, the Jesus guy, how much do you want to bet Jesus looks like that? How much do you want to bet he looks like Jesus? This guy's Jesus. As far as I'm concerned. As far as I'm concerned, this guy is Jesus.
Mark. Vicky says Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. Yes.
Oh, right. But wasn't he in another boy band with his brother? New Kids on the Block? That was Marky Mark? Or is that, you're asking? Yeah, see, I don't know. I'm not the demographic. But anyway.
Kevin, they're asking where Lenny is. Kevin, he's fine. We know he's had an appointment or he's out of town or something, but he regrets he's not here.
He's still alive.
He's still alive. He's good. He's
Yeah. No, apparently he's not feeling good this morning, so he wouldn't be able to. He said he might make it. He said he might be late. So if he pops up, he'll pops up. Maybe we'll let him into the show. So anyway, I'm not sure what was Marky Mark's band name with his brother. Remember his brother was in it too. But anyway, Donnie. So he came to he's a Catholic. He promotes this app as well as the guy that plays Jesus. So there's a thing that we talk about every once in a while called punching a hole in the sky.
Nice.
It's a term based on this concept that I heard from Lance Wallnow about quantum. And I apparently have been in the business of punching holes in the sky my whole life. And so I have to be very careful about how I pray, who I share it with, and to what extent we make it public what we're doing, because we're constantly punching holes in the sky, and there are other people that are more better funded.
You're so far ahead. You let the cat out of the bag,
and then all these other people do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I've been doing that for a very long time. Scatterfuse is like the best example of it. We had a YouTube app idea 4 years before YouTube. We couldn't sell it. We were literally in the Bay Area. What's the Bay Area known? What was it known as back then?
I remember this. I remember
Yeah.
this era of your life.
What was that? What was the Bay Area known as?
Silicon Valley?
Yeah. So we were literally there having meetings with venture capitalists, and they were all, we don't understand. And I'm like, everything's going to go to video. Everything on the internet is going to be filtered to image, video, social media, video. We didn't even use the word social media, but we called it viral video. It'll be video. The internet is going video. It's all going to go there. That's where we're headed. And we were telling them that in 1999, 2000. And they're like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, oh.
Hello.
Look at where we are. Snapchat, what's that? TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, everything's video. Netflix, Hulu, Disney, Paramount, Amazon. I mean, it's all video. And we called it 23 years ago, and they're like, so no one wanted to bite. And it would take another 4 to 5 years before these guys from Stanford. I'm an old punk rocker from LA, man. I'm not in a computer class in a top 5 university.
Yeah, Kevin's typing something there, but I was just thinking, what do you think is the next thing? But then that's the whole punch a blue sky thing.
Right. I actually, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's interesting to think.
Yeah, a few years, I was just thinking about that the other, literally probably 3 or 4 days ago. I posted about, hey, let's look at the last 25 years. This is how it went. It went boom, 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 because there's only 3 or 4 things that happen. And then based on that, this is where we should be in the next 2 to 3 years. Boom, boom, boom. And I posted something about that. And I can't find that post, and I don't remember what I said. But I can't just tell you what it. I mean, if I knew, I wouldn't be able to just tell you. It's like the sons of Issachar, right? I mean, they were the guys that knew what was coming. They were the ones that were smart. They discerned the signs of the times, and they concluded that they needed to back Deborah, the prophetess Deborah, and they did. They were the ones that had the finger on the pulse of what was going on spiritually. So, because the physical is the manifestation of the spiritual. And that's how they were able to discern that they were supposed to back Deborah's play. And they did. They were the ones that were discerning, we need to back David's play. And they did. So it's a very I think the two, in my experience, the two most important, or the two most significant swords to wield are the sons of Issachar sword, where where things are headed before everyone else gets there, so that you can get there in advance and set up shop or set up your whatever, right? And the second one is being able to call out dollar amounts and watch them come in. I think those are the two most significant swords we can wield as far as spiritual warfare. And when you have them both, oh my goodness. I'm not an economist. I didn't go to college. I don't have a degree in divinity. I don't have a degree in business. I don't have an MBA. I actually know an Oxford MBA. You know what I'm saying? And we talk. And it's been a while. I mean, they're here in town, but it's been a while. But it's very interesting when you're at their multi-million-dollar house, going through a bottle of wine and he's asking you for prophetic insight, and he's an Oxford MBA, and I'm just an old punk rocker. It's like, how did I get here? This is not my,
Right.
But that's what the Lord does. That's the Lord, because spiritual authority. Now I sound like a freak. Trumps all that crap, right? What did Wallnow say in 9/11 when the buildings were? There's a testimony of a guy. He's like a janitor in the building, in one of the twin towers. He's the janitor, or a janitor, and they're in the elevator, and he's in the elevator with all these like crazy rich cats, money guys, but he's the one with the spiritual authority, because he knows that there's a door in the elevator shaft that if they break through this little piece right here, they can get into this tunnel and get out and live. And he leads them in this endeavor, and they survive. See, he's the janitor. He's like no one of consequence.
He knows where the narrow road that leads to life is.
Yep. At that moment, he's the guy with all the, same thing. It's spiritual authority. It's what God does. So what are we talking about? So yeah, I don't know what the next. I have an idea what the next thing is. Here's the thing. Where we're going. I'm thinking of where we're going spiritually right now versus where's everything going technologically wise, as far as maybe I'm thinking. No, I'm not thinking like the business mountain or the entertainment mountain. I'm thinking more of the religious mountain, the religious family mountain, of where we're headed, and that's what I'm concentrating on with this new book. But anyway, punching holes in the sky. How did we come up with that?
New Kids on the Block.
Oh, apparently I've been punching holes in the sky.
You're talking about Jesus and Mark Wahlberg. Chosen Jesus, promoting the Catholic app. How did we get here? I don't remember.
Either way,
I don't know. Sorry, viewers. So there was something you've been mentioning for a couple of weeks about potential talk items, and there was big news this week about it. Do you want to talk about that?
What are we talking about?
The government's digital currency.
Oh, jeez.
Whoa. Bahram, ooh. Bahram. I like this pace we got going. We haven't usually this is the show. It's a rocket ship. We're just kind of like, we've already launched, and we're just like orbiting the Earth, just like making observations. Whoa, look at that blue planet down there.
So are we having a spacewalk right now?
Here.
So we're having a spacewalk right now.
Yeah, it's just kind of Major Tom-ish. Like, let's just. I like this. So keep the Bahram ooh going, talking about digital currency.
Well, the fact that they're already pushing us in that direction. It's more than just digital currency. It's absolute societal control. If you eliminate, we already know there's already a party going on. There's already a game being played. And not only is the U.S. not at the table, they weren't even stinking invited. And it's literally governments that are, I'll use the term antichrist. There's nothing pro-Christ, pro-Messiah, pro-anointed one when it comes to Islam or communism. It just isn't. The foundation of their belief systems are antichrist, and they're the ones that calling the shots. Well, in this new game, and they're not inviting us to the party. That never would have happened under Trump, ever. It's happening now because this guy that's in the White House, I don't reckon. Anyway.
Bahram. Ooh.
Oh, man.
Or is it like Ram?
Jason's think about a Tommy's chili cheeseburger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In this world, you have trouble.
So the issue with the digital currency thing is that it is societal control, because if I don't have my own money, and this is if I have a bunch of cash or access to cash in my bank, and they're saying, yeah, that's not good anymore, you have to do this now. I mean, that happened with the Confederates, man. The Confederacy made their own money, and then at the end of the war, it meant nothing. And so a lot of people lost their shirts. Well, this is worse because this is digital, which now touches everything. And it's about control, and it's all hand in hand with this digital. Now, why would I have it in my notes? Man, these people, they're just making it too easy. And here's the thing. They're telling you what they're going to do. Hold on. Oh, here we go. I've got to organize these notes maybe a little bit better. Because the digital currency goes hand in hand with the digital ID that China does, and I mean that's where we're headed. That's what they want to take us. That's where they want to take us. So, oh yeah, today is tax day. Render unto Caesar. So that's the concern, because they have an end game, and they're telling us what that end game is. My daughter told me my daughter watched it. She sent me the link. I don't have an hour to sit around and watch something. I just don't. I barely have 5 minutes to watch Lance Wallnau, and I like Lance Wallnau, let alone TBN. But anyway, TBN.
What about the drummer Instagram posts I sent you? Do you watch those?
I do. They're real quick though. So TBN apparently last night had a special on all this stuff. Did you guys know about that? Did you guys hear about that? I don't think any of us are really tuned in with TBN, so I'm going to say probably not. Let me see if I can. So apparently I have like 5 different platforms that I converse with my family. It's insane. What the heck? So I have to figure out which one it is to tell you what it is that we're talking about. Did you hear about the Chicago mayor-elect condemns the teen takeover chaos and says it's not constructive to demonize youth. We can just let them run wild and kill people and do it's just insane. Anyway, but it has to do with all this resets. It's called The Great Reset on TBN. It was on last night. And they're talking about this thing called 1619 project.
1619.
This is all public. It's not like secret stuff I'm talking about. But they're outlying. They're literally, and this is where I wanted Lenny to come in, because this is what I want to talk about a little bit, and that's the days of Daniel, the 2 sets of 1260. They're literally telling you what they're going to do to us in the next 7 years. And that's concerning. Here's why it's concerning. How many of you have heard of stuff about 2030? Right? The majority of you, right? I'll give everybody a second to say yay or nay. But there's some sort of focus on 2030, the year 2030. Well, here's the thing. We're in the first month of the new year. We just entered and we just finished the Shemitah year. This is the beginning of a new 7-year cycle. Right. So this is a brand new, right? So here we've got 2 people saying, yep, they've heard of 2030. We have just entered a brand new 7-year cycle, which ends. There he is.
2030.
All right, Lenny, are you listening?
Good morning.
Are you listening?
He's like, oh, I'm feeling better. All of a sudden, they're talking about the book of Daniel.
Are you listening?
I just tuned in, baby.
Do you hear what I'm talking about?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay. So they're literally telling us what they're going to do to us in the next 7 years, and how they're rolling these things out like every 2 years. Like they're supposed. I saw this really creepy snap or reel. I saw this really creepy reel. Was it August 4th in Southern California? 9+ hits California. Yeah. So apparently August of next year, a 9-something is going to hit California. Anyway,
Yeah.
scary, but right. And then they're doing something else to us in 2025, and then they're doing something else to us in 2027, 20. Right? They're like telling you what they're going to do. They're rolling it all out. So I asked everybody a couple minutes ago, Lenny, everyone's heard about something about 2030, right? Everybody's heard about 2030. There's something going on in 2030, right? And everyone's like, oh yeah. Well, we are in the month of Abib, regardless of what anyone else is saying that it's not Abib. That's just ridiculous. That's why I felt I had to post something, because Devorah's tree, whatever, is one of the resources and I've explained this. We look at a bunch of stuff and then we go, okay, based on all this information. We don't just go one thing, one person, one ministry, one thing, and we go, we base everything on that. We don't do that. We look around at everything we possibly can, secular, Jewish, whatever, and we go, hey, what's going on here? So for Devorah Tree to just come out of nowhere and say, "Hey, we're retracting the last 3 weeks. It's not a bib. I know we all already did everything. Let's call it Adar 2, and then in the next new moon we'll call that a bib." You can't do that. You just can't do that. And who made you the Sanhedrin? I mean, there's another group that's trying to convince me that we were supposed to do all this 2 months ago.
2 months ago, yeah, I know, I saw that.
We brought that up too. It's like, no, don't be silly. And then my favorite was their reasoning. I don't think God wanted us to walk in the mud. Are you an idiot? That is the stupidest thing you can possibly say. I don't think he wanted us to walk in the mud or be outside cold.
Ram. You're doing good. You're doing good, Allan. So close. So how do you close the thought? What do you talk like?
I don't have any ulcers. I've never had an ulcer. That's pretty good because I let it all out. You don't know my life. All right, so we just entered into, we're in the month of Abib. That's the first month of the year, and we just entered a brand new 7-year cycle because the Shemitah just ended.
Exactly.
So 7 years is 2030. Now,
yes,
contrary to popular Christianity, Jesus cannot come back anytime nilly-willy. It's just not going to happen. He's not going to come back year 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
There's no such thing as the doctrine of imminence.
Wow. See, he knows all these fancy words. I don't know anything. The doctrine of imminence. What the hell is that?
His imminent return.
Oh.
That was attached to what happened in the 1850s by Darby when he came up with the pre-tribulational rapture. Total heresy.
Right? So he can't do that. He can do whatever he wants, but he's not going to. He's going to stick to his father's time frame schedule thing.
Exactly.
So in the same way, evening to evening, in the same way, the 6th day, all of that, 6 year, right? So he might come back at the end of a 6th year or the beginning of a 7th. I highly doubt he would come at the end of a 7th and the beginning of the 1st. That just doesn't make sense.
Remember what he said too? He says, unless those days are shortened, no flesh would be saved.
Yeah.
Everybody forgets that one.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is 2030 is the year that it lands.
Well, what I'm saying is everyone's talking about 2030, and I don't know how many of those people know that we're on a 7-year cycle or believe that. Well, the 7-year cycle we just started, right? Our year 2023 to 24 is 1, 24 to 25 is 2, 25 The 26 is 3, 26, 27, 4, 27, 28, 5, 28, 29, 6, 29 to 30, 7. Right? And there's supposed to be some asteroid thing in 2029 or 2030.
29, it's coming real close. They've been tracking that forever. That's just
And that concerns me because one of the first things that happens that kicks off all of this party time is here's the thing. Mike Bickle says the book of Revelation isn't something that just happens to us. No, we usher it in through our prayers, calling for Messiah to come back. We want Messiah to return. That's why when I go visit a church and they're like, "Come, Lord Jesus, come, Lord," I'm like, don't pray that, because if come Lord Jesus, if he comes, you're all SOL, because you're not in line with anything that he's talking about, and you're all going to be judged, and you all ate pork this morning, or you're going to have pork for lunch, and you're asking Jesus to come Lord Jesus. No, you're incriminating yourself. You don't want him to come because you're not in alignment, right? And it's like creepy when I go to these churches and they're praying this. It's like you don't want him to come back because he's going to kick your butt if he does. You need to line up first. Anyway, I'm still keeping it mellow.
You're doing pretty good.
What is it? Ba Ram You. Ba, you know what Ba Ram You is, Lenny?
I forgot.
Did you ever see that movie Babe with the little pig who's like basically a sheepdog?
Yes.
And the sheep give him the secret word that he uses to keep the sheep in order?
Yes.
So I can't sit here and go, right? I can't do that, but I can go, Baram you. Breathe in, breathe out. Anyway. So they're literally telling us what they're going to do to us the next 7 years. Kris brought up the digital currency thing.
Did you see what I posted with Tucker and Elon Musk last night?
I haven't saved to watch. I want to watch it. I have not. I haven't saved to watch. I'm just.
It's scary. Me and Linda were looking at that, going, "Wow, this is something we've always seen." I mean, they've had this in sci-fi forever.
Yeah.
They know exactly what they're doing. And everybody's asking you, go, well, have you seen the signature of that 7-year treaty that the beast is supposed to sign? I go, who says we're supposed to see it? All it says is that it happens.
Right.
I go, here's all the assumptions that Christianese puts to everything, saying, well, this is what's going to happen next. You might not even see it. And we don't even know what was written. Same thing with the building of the third temple. No, it just says that there's a building of the altar. That's what's desecrated. There's so many things there that are under assumption that they think they'll see. And yet he goes, you won't even know when it comes.
And that was the great thing about the one of those memes during the pandemic was how we thought we were going to spend the end of the world. And we were all warriored out. But here's the reality. They're in their slippers and then watching TV because they're all at home. We don't know how it's going to look. It's literally going to look different than we're assuming or thinking. But we are supposed to know the signs of it. We are supposed to know. And he's not going to come to us as a thief in the night because we know the signs of his return.
Exactly.
So that's another error in Christianity. So we just entered a new 7-year cycle this month. We're in it. We're in month 1 of year 1 of a new 7-year cycle. And there's this thing about Daniel and 2 sets of 1,260 days, which are 42 months each, which are 3.5 years each. So there's 2 sets of 3.5 years, 2 sets of 42 months, 2 sets of 1,260 days. The first set of 3.5 years, Lenny, correct me when I go wrong, is all pretty much staging. Everything's being put into place. Because it's the second set. And here's something I don't know. I haven't bothered to look, and I don't remember. So I'm going to ask you. Hopefully you know the answer. The second set, when that kicks in, that second set of 3.5, that's when the beast system is actually instituted. You can't buy, sell, or trade without the mark. When do the two witnesses show up? Don't they show up at the beginning of the second set of 3.5?
That's when they're dealt with. They're here. They're going to be working all along. You're not going to be able to recognize them till that day. Matthew 24:15, when it says the abomination which makes desolate, Daniel tells us that's when he stops the daily oblation and sacrifice, which has to be put into place sometime in this next 3.5 years, if we're in that place. I'm just saying if.
Well, I haven't even gotten there yet.
I know. If we're in that place, that has to be part of the daily operations going on. And if you know about the Netanyahu government right now, the whole push is they're calling the Arabs racist because they're not letting them do their diligence on top of the Temple Mount. So all of that is under the scenes that people don't know, that where they're trying to really get rid of Biden working overtime trying to get rid of Netanyahu. He put his heavy-duty conservative guys in there to start working to make that Temple Mount work for them spiritually. And so with that happening, when they show up, that 3.5 years in, that individual will stop that oblation. That starts everything. Then they even start prophesying against that. And that's when they kick into gear big time. That's when they'll be so obvious. You'll go, there they are in living color.
Making another cup of coffee. Okay, so then the two witnesses are here for that whole first part. It's the second part where they get pretty much rounded up and killed.
Exactly.
Okay. So that could happen. Do we know when that happens? Does it say when that happens?
That will happen. That when they get killed, we don't know exactly. The assumption is somewhere during that last 3.5 years. Remember that first 3.5 years, like you said, the whole staging is. Well, that staging is probably the first 4 seals, because that is when man is destroying each other. God's allowing them to fulfill their curse towards one another, and nations are rising against nations. It's when that last 3.5 years hits in, we start to see the judgments of God, and they start rolling faster and faster. All these seals that are coming, the first time that Yeshua clicks his fingers and 1/4 of the population's gone, that's still man dealing with man through wars and beasts and all these other things. After that, when he lets his judgments go, that's when you see the earth changes. And it's going to happen so rapidly. We go, well, that'll be over a 3.5 year period. I go, probably not. And here's the scary part. Well, I'm getting way ahead of myself, but the whole thing with Daniel, where he says, wait till the 45th day, you'll be blessed. And he adds another actual 75 days onto the 1,260 days. When that happens, you'll probably see Jesus marching from Sinai to Zion. And that's when all the garbage hits. Everything hits.
Jesus, he takes the route that Moses did. He goes up and then cuts across Jordan, boom, into the land.
And he's
taking kings along the way.
Right. And probably during that time is when he's taking all of us with him. And the blood's going to be running up to the horses' bridles.
So then here's what you said. You said that first 3.5 years are probably the 4 seals happening.
The 4 seals, when man is it's the human nature. He's letting all their sin destroy each other.
Right. And so
before his judgments kick in.
So what we have mentioned here before is the possibility, I'm finding it, that we are possibly somewhere between Revelation 6 verses 3 and 4.
Yep.
When he opened the second seal, I heard the second living creature say, "Come," And out came another horse, bright red. Its rider was permitted to take peace from the earth so that people should slay one another. And he was given a great sword. We have seen a rise in violence in the last year and a half. There's this crazy thing that's happening in Chicago right now where the youth are like literally just running amok, and they're like saying it's okay. They're letting them. And then the next seal, verse 5, the third seal, I heard the third living creature say, "Come," and I looked, and behold, a black horse, and its rider had a pair of scales in his hand. And I heard what seemed to be a voice in the midst of the four living creatures saying, "A quart of wheat for a denarius, 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, and do not harm the oil and the wine." So it's not far if we put everything on the table. This is the closest we've ever been as a species, as a race, to this.
Exactly.
And what's really concerning, and I've been saying this for 3 years on record, we have a show here every Tuesday. It's like a time machine here. That this is the
like
first
Groundhog's
time,
Day? Oh, time machine.
right? This is like the first time ever the whole entire planet is working together with the same goals. And then I've had the liberal left. That's insane, Alan. The whole world can't do something like that. That can't happen. And I'm like, are you really, how silly stupid are you? Do you not know what the job of the United Nations is? Do you not know what the W and the WHO stands for? They literally don't believe that the whole world can be in cahoots to do something nefarious against its people. That was like a Tucker Carlson laugh. I mean, what are they thinking? I mean, have they not read Revelation? Have they not read chapters 11, 12, and 13 of Revelation where it says the whole world? Doesn't matter who you are? Wow. So.
It's interesting. Last night it was really telling in the interview. He was talking about an old conversation, Elon Musk with the head of Google, I forget his name, and he was going back and forth, and Tucker was asking him, and he goes, he basically got booted out of that inner circle because the guy from Google said, "You're a speciesist. You care more for humans than you do for the AI." And boy, that was telling. It was telling about who's running the show and the kind of money behind the show.
Yeah.
And what's already in place, little things that we can't even imagine.
Right. You know, and I've made it clear that the bigger you get in music as an entertainer, the stupider your audience becomes. Lance says the higher you get into government and politics, money in politics, the more corrupt it is. It's like there's this double thing that happens. And it's designed that way because, I mean, and here's the thing. The fact that Christianity is so far removed from a lot of this understanding is really kind of scary, which is why, like some of us, and I'm not doing this. Here's what I'm trying to get to. Our involvement with the music industry puts us in a situation where we see things or understand some things the most people won't. I'm not trying to sound weird or degrading or insulting or elitist or arrogant. No, I'm not trying. That's not what I'm trying to do here. It's just, how do you say this without sounding like that? For example, when we started doing business at a certain level, I mean, so apparently your first 2 million. Kris, you can attest. You can speak to this. The first 2 millions you make in your business are the easiest. It's getting to million. Was it 4? Something like that is like the hardest. Like it's easy to make 2-3 million a year with your company. It's breaking that 4 to 5. That's like almost nearly impossible. Whereas the average person would think, well, if you can make 2 million, 3 million, the 4 and 5 is going to be easy. Do you know what I'm talking about, Kris?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't make millions and millions, but the concept. It's also, you talk about church growth. There's stuff in that world or an
Right.
organization, a nonprofit. You're trying to get,
Right.
you can get 20, 30. The majority of churches are under 75 people.
Yep.
And then there's a plateau like at 120. And then there's like a plateau at 600. Like, it's just like, what the, But yeah, that concept, it's not always double, 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 double. It's
right.
And
so I remember when we were at a certain threshold when it comes to business, and so that put us in front of people we hadn't been in front of before, and it's like the way we talk about, hey, do you want to get together and have a beer? You want to get together and drink coffee? They're talking about investment opportunities. In the same way we would talk about, let's go out and get a cup of coffee or a beer. They're talking about, there's this new thing you can invest in, this restaurant or this tech thing or this stock. So this happens like this. And I remember being approached saying, hey, you might want to invest in this. And I'm like, well, what about the one you just invested in? Well, that's a little bit above where you're at. You're going to have to get there. And so there's this, right? Jesus knows about this stuff. Whereas the majority of Christianity does not. They don't know how this stuff works. They don't know the mechanics of how the world system works. He does, to the extent that Lucifer took him to the mountain, showed him all the kingdoms of the earth and their glory, and said, I know why you're here. Bow down, take the knee, and I'll give them to you. And he said, no.
Yep.
I'm going to die and take them from you, and then I'm going to give them back to these people. I'm going to give them back the deed of the earth, which is what we believe the Lamb is holding in Revelation 5, because Adam gave up that deed in the garden. So that's why the talents and the minas, those two parables, are so important when it comes to understanding of how this stuff works. Because what we're talking about in the physical realm is just a shadow of how this stuff works out in the spiritual realm. Because these same concepts are spiritual, they're heavenly. That's why we want the kingdom of heaven here on earth, because it's the proper way of doing these things we're talking about, which confuses the world. Up is down, down is up. First is last, last is first, right? All that. And then that's why the parable of the talents and the minas are so important to understand, and to have that as your daily, these are your daily mechanics. This is your basic early morning calisthenics. This is how you wake up in the morning, get that blood, the parable of the sower, the seed and the sower, 20, 30, 40, 60, 80% return, right? All these things all play in. Jesus talked about money a lot. Finances a lot. Why? Because he's given us the understanding. He's trying to let us know. Because see, the world functions. The shrewd manager, really important. It looks a certain way. It's done a certain way, and we need to be aware of that. And like what we're talking about, there's stuff going on. Elon Musk, Bill Gates, there's stuff these guys are talking about and dealing with, like you said, Lenny. We're not privy to it, and some of us, we're all at different layers of this, right? Well, some of us are like that, some of us are like this, right? And that's God's doing, because we believe that money, through blessing, through obedience, is from God. It's not from the enemy. Otherwise, we'd all have a whole bunch of it. It's stewardship. And what did Bill Johnson say? He says that money is the lowest form of spiritual authority, and we ain't got any. That's incriminating,
It is.
But it's true. I mean, we can't. I mean, I don't know. When was the last time you told a tree to go into the ocean? I've never done that. or a mountain. I don't know how to do that. I don't know. I've never raised the dead. I've gotten close, but I've never raised the dead. I believe it can happen. I believe it's available to me. I've never walked through walls. I've never walked on water. This
What's gotten close to raising the dead look like? The guy goes, oh psych.
Are you mocking me?
No. I mean, it's just funny. That's a funny statement. I've gotten close to raising the dead.
Remember when Karen Syracuse died?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
We labored. I was laying over her body for hours. So Lord, please raise her up.
I knew that if I could,
please let this happen.
Yeah. Here's what I mean by that. I knew that if they had given me access to the baby, and if I could hold it, it would have come back to life. And they did everything. The family, I wasn't even part of the family, but the family did everything they could to keep me away from the baby.
Like you had faith.
I knew it was going to happen. The mother fell at my knees, and I didn't even know it was the mother. The mother fell at my knees as I was running up the stairs, and she said, "Save my baby, save my baby. You're the only one that can save my baby." And I was like, "What the heck?" And her nephew, who I was with, looked at me. He knew I was a man of faith. He says, he knew he had the faith too. So he was doing everything he could to get me to the baby. But all the men of the family were like, "Well, who's this guy?" And I'm like, I can't blame him. Who is this guy? And then it was like it was like the weirdest. I mean, like the enemy was literally behind me, mocking me, and I didn't turn around because I would give him even more authority. And then he sat next to me because anyway, that's what I mean. It's a little bit more involved, the story, but my point is, I can cast out a demon. I can heal the sick, right? There's this stuff. There's these layers of authority. And he's like, he looked at Nicodemus and said, "How do you not understand what I'm saying when it comes to all this stuff that I'm telling you? I'm talking to you about natural things and you're not getting it. How are you going to understand these spiritual things?" So there's stuff about finance and politics that are beyond us because we're not privy to this information. There, like you said, this interview with Elon Musk, what's going on, I mean, look at the stuff that Trump did. I mean, Trump's been talking about this stuff for like 30 years on the record. Then he's put into office. He instigates it. He puts it into play. He puts it into motion. And the globalists lost their minds. In 1971, Greenspan said, The reason for the Trilateral Commission is to take over the world, one world government, and the only way to do that is to take out the United States. And the only way you can take out the United States is if you infiltrate their business, their education, their politics, and there was another one, a fourth mountain. In 1971, he speaks of 4 of the 7 mountains, and it would take another 80, 90, 30 years before Christianity would even understand anything about the 7 mountains. And he mentioned, we have to take out the U.S. because the U.S. stands in the way of our globalist agenda. And you take them out through their government, through their finances, through their education, and their family, I believe. I'm not afraid to say all that because it's been public record for 50 years. Lance talks about it all the time. But anyway, but see, it's okay if you only know this much about politics or government or how the world system works, or it's okay if you only know this much about the 7 mountain stuff. My concern is that I don't think it's okay for us to know this much about matters of faith. I don't think that's okay. I think we're supposed to know, right? Because I think that understanding impacts how we walk this thing out, which in turn impacts the lives that we influence, whether it's our family, our loved ones, or the people in our neighborhood. the people in our little circle of territory. That's why I don't believe it's okay for us to only know this much when it comes to matters of faith, spirituality, doctrine, and theology. How much do you know about the record industry and contracts and all that? Performing Arts Society? I don't think that's important. Business, government, politics, unless you're called to it. See what I'm saying? But when it comes to how do I heal the sick, cast out demons, raise the dead, and speak in tongues? No, we need to know this much about that stuff, because that, I think, impacts the brightness of our resurrection. And I want to rise bright. And in order to do that, we have to die. The humanity, our self, has to decrease and die, throw on the altar, take up our cross, deny ourselves.
You know, that Monday and Tuesday before he got with his disciples, he brought them to the mount. Remember, this was right before Passover. And their minds exploded. They went bam, because he gave them a quick lesson on geography, history, global politics, when what we read in Matthew 23, 24, and 25. And it triggered something in them, because it was always on their heart saying, when is this going to happen? When is this going to happen? They finally had his full attention, and it was right before he was about ready to be sacrificed. And here was Yeshua. And it was probably that Sunday or that Monday night or that Monday day that he took him up to the mountain and told him about what was to transpire. Then the night after the supper, before he was led away captive, his last words were John 14, 15, 16, and 17. People don't realize that. We always look at the Last Supper and they wash their feet, but those 4 chapters encapsulated were his very, very last words, when he says, he goes, in this life, you're going to have tribulation, but be comforted. He goes, don't be alarmed. He goes, this is where all your joy is going to come from. It's going to be in me, and you're going to need to know this. And he goes on to say, let me tell you how intense my relationship is with my Father, and that's the kind of relationship I want to have with you, because he knew that's the only thing that would probably get them through to be able for that generation to understand that their redemption draws nigh, and they're saying, you're doing this all well, God. We trust in you, though we see everything going out around us down in flames. And that all happened within like that 3-day period right before he got crucified. And I can't even imagine how their heads were exploding. And when you look at that, and when you see what that is, you said this one word, there's a threshold. I believe we're at that threshold. We're to occupy, until he comes. And what does that mean? That means all the above. That means we do need to be versed in all these things. That's what the end times prophet in these last days are doing. Yes, we need to pray for our country. We need to, what Lance always says, pray to God that we're a sheep nation, that we don't fall into the hand of the goats. Yeah. We have to do all of that. And so then you see Christians come along and say, I don't want to look at that. We don't look at the end times. We just don't need to do that. Those are the very same people that Paul says, you know what? You're cursing yourself. You're saying the Lord delayeth his coming.
Yeah.
And that's why he says that's where anathema maranatha comes in, because they put a curse on themselves when they say that. And so people say, well, is it this or that? It's everything. We're coming to that place. I'm telling my nephew, Ronnie's going, he goes, as soon as they get out of the union, sell that bakery. That doesn't mean run for the hills, but it means to position yourself, and with the finances you got, go into something else, because to try to run a business in Los Angeles today with all their permits and taxes and everything else, it's stupidity, because people think, well, life is just going to go on like it always has been. We're beyond that threshold.
Right. So, and I'm reading notes here because these are actually notes to that new book. They keep telling us their plans and they keep putting it out there, but we didn't believe them. We didn't take them seriously, and we just sat there and let it happen to us. And that's what we're kind of alluding to. What if we entered this month? What if we entered that first set of 1260, 42 months, 3.5 years? I mean, this is the closest we've ever gotten to all the pieces are in order, are in alignment for this. We have never seen the world function or work like we've seen them work together the last 3 years. It's mind-blowing. We were talking about how mind-blowing that was. So I got a prophetic word live on this show, first Tuesday of October, I think in 2019. And I keep going back to that because, well, one, it was 4 years ago, which is how did that happen? How did 4 years already go by? October of 2019. It was the enough adulting word. He's in the same way there, the globalists, whatever we want to call them, telling us their plans for the next 7 years. What does the scripture say? God tells his servants, the prophets, ahead of time. Why? So that sons of Issachar, so that Israel would know when to hold, right? Braveheart, or go left, or go right, or, okay, go up, but stop at this point. We need to know that so that we can bypass the wiles of the enemy, know when to duck because here comes an arrow, shields, link shields, all that terminology. We need to know so that we end up where we need to end up, right? We're following the pillar of smoke by day and the pillar of fire by night, and he'll provide food, he'll provide water. Might not be the way we want it or like it or what we're used to, but I'd rather be free in the desert than enslaved in Egypt. And that's not necessarily the case for everyone. And it says that for 40 years and your sandals never wore out. I mean, right? He takes care of his own. I know. He takes care of his own, but we have to be in alignment and we have to have discernment when not to listen to Korah, when not to be afraid or of the giants in the land, and when not to be afraid when we're out here and we're going, well, I don't see any water or any food, but I trust in him because he's gotten me this far and he's never let me down. And he provided for me yesterday. I know he's going to provide for me tomorrow. And all of this requires your equipping. All of this requires equipping, which is why we do what we do, how we do it. Because all that stuff, right? Learning, right? We have to function at this level. On earth as it is in heaven, we need to be walking at this level of spirituality in this earth realm, but it requires our absolute obedience, the sacrifice of our flesh, the aligning with his spirit, the saying no to sin. And not everyone is going to cooperate. And we want to help rally those that do, that desire that. Because we can't do it alone. You can't do it alone. I can't do it alone. So,
Do you know how important it's going to be for this Shavuot to hear the voice of God?
yeah.
And it's more than just, for our life, it's for what's here right now.
Yeah. And how to navigate the here and now. How are we going to navigate tomorrow,
Right.
Because it's not self-serving, because we're supposed to be a blessing to our children, our grandchildren, our neighbors, the people he puts in our path.
Do you know what? This, again, I'll refer to Bickle on this. The greatest outpouring of righteousness, revelation, and understanding has hit. Why? Because when the judgments of God are in the earth, when they start to come, then all men learn righteousness. The greatest hour for what we call the church, believers, is here.
Well, and like we've said before, you don't get an Elijah without an Ahab and a Jezebel.
Oh boy, that's for sure. Yikes.
Right? And if we're going to have a spirit of Elijah come upon us at the last day to prepare people for the Lord, guarantee you there's a freaking Ahab and a Jezebel on the throne.
You know what? And that prostitute that rides the beast, she's right there trying to rip us off right now. And she has so many forms. It's not just the immorality, it's the immorality of everything.
Yeah.
And the immorality of disobedience.
It's about obedience, man. We talked about that last night. If you're not watching Monday night, ask the people that are live that are watching Monday night. I think it's good. I think it's good information as far as equipping us for the spiritual side of what's coming, or what's already here. And yeah.
It was good. I watched you on YouTube because I couldn't get on the computer on the big screen. Me and Linda both did. It was really good.
Hey, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all that goofy stuff, all that social media stuff. Be sure to do all that. This is for Aspen.
It's Monday.
I don't know if you could hear that. Probably not. I don't know if you heard that or not. Kris, what do you think, man? Was I mellow enough?
Yeah, it's not nice and chill. How does it feel to put on the opposite colored sweater today? feels good. It feels good. There we go. Hello.
I'm gonna play golf this season with this on. I found this at a thrift store or something. It's so rad. It's like so old. I'm afraid it says, I don't know how old this is, but it feels old, brittle.
It's not like costumey. It's like it's legit old.
It feels old, and it's got like old like tags, and yeah, it's old. Stevens is the name on it. I don't know. For all I know, it's not old, but it feels old. It looks old. It's supposed to look old, but it feels old. Anyway. So anyway, Kris, what do you think, man?
There's a lot to chew on, man. It's just so. You quoted Alan Greenspan. I share a birthday with him as a son.
Oh yeah,
it's kind of weird. Stay close when we're talking about all this and the future and what do we predict, what's going to happen. I mean, it's just stay true. Stay next to your father. Hold his hand.
Yeah.
How do you hold his hand daily? How do you reset your own heart every single day to stay true? Stay on the narrow road. We were talking pre-show a little bit. Oh, thanks, Nathalie. We were talking pre-show about, the musician, the world, the evangelical church, or even charismatic evangelical church, has leaders or people that we look up to. We were talking about a musician, but it's so easy to fall into the woke narrative.
Yeah.
And woke could be a trigger word. It's so easy to fall into the wide road narrative.
Yeah.
And it starts out subtle. It's not subtle. It's like if the wide road narrative is a cake. You've got all kinds of ingredients in a cake, right? Flour, sugar, eggs, layers. And then on top is this bright, yummy pink frosting. And on top of the frosting are these sprinkles. And what gets you into the narrative is not like you've identified all the ingredients and the evil behind it, but you see the bright, shiny thing. You see the sprinkle. You're drawn to the cake because of that sprinkle, and then you get to the frosting, and then you get to the cake, and now you're eating the food that spoils. You're eating the thing that will give you no nourishment, and it's just so deceptive. And we are protected from that if we abide, if we walk with the Father, if we do what He says. And we were talking about earlier before the show, I just feel not worried. I'm disappointed. And I am, maybe I'm worried for those leaders, because you were on the path. You were on the path and then you abandoned it. Like you were going in the right way. And then what distracted you? You were running the race, and then you quit. And it's just it's only going to get more difficult.
And more spiritual.
It's already spiritual, but it's going to manifest in the physical, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be, we were talking the other night with our kids at dinner. We've had since that Shabbat that I told you about a couple weeks ago, we're having family dinners all the time. It's just like the calendar's landing correctly. It's so great. Anyway, we're having this conversation with them, and it was about digital currencies. My wife was asking me about it, and I've studied, been reading up on things for 4 or 5 years in that space. Decentralized currencies, which is different than what the government's proposing. But we were talking to my kids are in this conversation, and it's like, when the power grid goes out, it don't matter. Everything's digital already. We're transferring,
right.
We log in, transferring money.
Right.
And my son saw panic in his eyes a little bit. Like, there's going to be a day when the power dies. And what are our survival? Oh, we were joking about, can you hunt and kill your own food? But whatever our comfort is, at some level in the future, our comfort's going to be pressed. Whether comfort is speaking in tongues, or fearful of the charismatic, fearful of Messiah, to the practical, like, oh, they've outlawed cars with gas. Oh, the power goes out. Oh, we have no electricity for 6 months. And the thing that will remain true and will remain the same is the great I am, who does not change. And that's where I want to be. That's what I want to be concerned and worried about. Not because there will be wars, rumors of wars. All these things must happen. Stay true to the Father. So that's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
How do I stay true to the Father and not be worried, not lean into comforts more than the Father? Even this week, you're thinking about tax season. You're thinking about, oh man, I have a good life, but it's a little less financially certain than it was 5 years ago, for everyone. Just really, really interesting. Stay true. The narrow gate that leads to life.
Right. Well, Jesus, what did Jesus say regarding that? It's in Matthew, I think 18. Don't be like the pagans. Do not be like the pagans. Do not be like the Gentile pagans who worry about these things and they concern themselves about these things. But seek first the kingdom of heaven. And if you align yourself and seek first the kingdom of heaven, everything else will fall into place. That's the Allan Aguirre paraphrase. That's essentially what he's saying. I mean, that's what he says.
Yeah. Remember, he said, "Let not your heart be troubled. I'm going to go away so the helper can come, and I'm going to give you the Holy Spirit."
Yeah. We're being asked if we're going to stream the conference. We would love to, but like Jason said, we don't have access. We just have regular internet access from the hotel. We don't have like good access. And so we can't really offer full streaming for free because then that's just not fair. We would probably have to put a dollar amount to it, but then I don't want to do that if we can't provide excellent signal service.
I think based on last year, I don't think it would translate.
Right.
Because it's not about the speaking, it's about the
fellowship and the spirit. Yeah.
It's just something.
Right. So we don't want to, so we can't simply because it just won't. Yeah. It won't. Yeah. Now we did record all the sessions and we have had most of it edited because I just edit. If you've ever edited video properly, it's a lot of work. And so I had a friend of mine do the editing, but it's not done because we didn't pay him. So he was doing us a favor. So we have most of it, almost probably 90% of last year's edited. But it doesn't have intros. It doesn't have title. It's not done. And we were talking about having it edited and offering it to people like on a DVD or on a thumb drive or something. But here we are a year later, still hasn't been done because I've got other stuff to do. I just can't concentrate on that. And we don't have departments where we could just give it to the media department to do, right? I mean, we're not there yet. That's a goal of ours, is to get to that point. So maybe what we do is, I know we're going to record. That's why Spencer's coming on a day early to get some of this stuff. We'll probably record. Yeah, the permissions and copyrights concerns are, we can bypass that easily by not broadcasting the worship or offering the worship, because then we can bypass that. So what we'll probably do is record this year's session like we did last year's session. Be vigilant and very conscious of time when it comes to editing that, and then maybe doubling, having both on, offering both, and then putting that up money wise. But not to break the bank or nothing, just to, because somebody's got to do it, and it's gonna cost. So anyway, yeah,
looking forward to that time though. It's great. I was praying about it last night, and
yeah, it's like 30 plus days away already.
Yeah.
Hey, any last anything, guys?
Not for me.
Lenny, anything? No?
No.
Father, I pray for your people. I pray for the quickening of their spirits through you, Holy Spirit. I pray that you would open eyes, continue to open eyes of their understanding. I pray for even more of your spirit of wisdom and revelation, Father, over your people. In Jesus' name.
Amen.
The name is Mashiach. Thank you, Father, for your covenants. What are we? Day 9? All right. 10. We'll see. We'll catch you on in the mornings with 2-minute warning. Have a great Shabbat weekend. We'll see you next week. Oh, isn't it Holocaust Remembrance Day today? I believe. So Israel usually takes. They have they stop and they have a siren blow. It's a 10-minute. The whole city shuts down. Like people in the street, the driving of cars, and they stand in silence. They get out of their cars. They just stand there in the street. It's amazing. I was there for that siren when I was there. Oh man! But yeah, I think today is I believe it's Holocaust Remembrance Day, and my daughter posted something that if we took a minute of silence, it would take 11 years of silence in order to commemorate every person. Yeah, last night. It started last night. So, all right. Shalom. Peace.
You're listening to Chameleon Church. Biblical Antidotes for the Modern Man. With your host, Allan Aguirre.
The views and opinions expressed during our broadcasts are solely those of the broadcast producers, hosts, and/or guests, etc., and are not necessarily the views or opinions of the Travelog Network, its sponsors, or affiliates.